Tales by Tabletop is a story adapted from sessions of Dungeons & Dragons. It follows the saga of a trio of adventurers, Laeran, Rosjen, and Tim.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the 5th chapter of our story. The two pixies, Bimmy and Trista, led our heroes on a twisting, maze-like path through the woods to a hidden cavern. The heroes had to trust that this was the next step in their search for David. Above ground, the sun was setting. Almost a full day has passed since David's father, Aldo, realized the boy was missing. The three companions keep their anxiety over his fate silent as they cautiously descend into the depths of the underground passage. Tim takes a torch out of his pack, lights it, and tosses it further into the tunnel.
There. You can see where it bends a little to the right. I didn't go any further than that.
I'll go scout ahead to get a better look.
Shout if you need us, and be careful.
Laeran tightens his grip on his shield and raises his illuminated holy symbol higher. Rosjen walks slowly toward the torch. The ground is wet, and a small trickle of water runs along the left side of the tunnel. Rosjen looks back at her companions, nods, and ventures further into the cave, pressing herself tightly against the wall. She reaches the edge of the torch's glow and takes the bend out of sight. The only sound she hears is the hissing and spurting of the torch's flame behind her, and the smell of decay wafts up from the area ahead. The bend abruptly opens into a much larger room, and before Rosjen's eyes can adjust, a kobold leaps out from the darkness.
Huh? In our cave? No!
Laeran! Tim! Ambush!
3 more kobolds jump from the darkness, surprising Rosjen, and move in to surround her.
Guys! Hurry!
The kobolds take vicious swings with their pitted swords, using the darkness and each other's movements against Rosjen, but her reflexes are quick. Rosjen dances and weaves around their attacks as their blades slice at the air around her. She grabs her quarterstaff in both hands, jabbing at the first kobold in range. The tip of the staff only glances off of its shoulder. Desperately, Rosjen closes the gap, slamming her elbow into the kobold's jaw and ripping the stitches holding it in place. Before the rest of the creatures can close in again, a flash of light appears as Laeran barrels down the tunnel, holy symbol gleaming from his wrist and mace gripped tightly in his hand. Ha! However, he isn't ready for the floor to be wet, and slips as he swings at the kobold in front of Rosjen, his mace arcing well above its head. The kobolds continue to work as a pack and turn to attack both of our heroes. Tim slides around the bend, guitar in hand.
I'm here, guys. Let me light these scale bags up for you.
Tim strums his instrument, and a small glittering orb hovers over 3 of the kobolds and explodes, showering the area, but the creatures skitter out of the way of the falling glitter.
Damn it. Rosjen, you got this. Hit them. Do it.
Rosjen grips her staff in both hands and takes a swing at the jawless kobold. The kobold throws itself against the wall, narrowly avoiding her attack. She uses this to her advantage, however, and maneuvers to bash it in the gut with her elbow. She connects, and its chest caves in with a sickening crunch.
Lord Kellenvor, ruler of the City of Judgment, for your glory.
As Laeran says the prayer, holy light surrounds and fills both him and Rosjen, their wounds healed. They exchange a quick nod and ready their weapons as the remaining kobolds close in.
The cleric! Kill the healer!
Not you, though. You stay and fight me.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, Rot Nugget. See if you can wrap your mind around this.
I wanted that one, Tim. All right, Scaly, you're next.
Rosjen taps the end of her quarterstaff on the floor behind a kobold next to Laeran, distracting the creature. As soon as it looks down, she jumps and drops her heel on the kobold's head. Tim enters the fray, drawing his rapier.
Ha! On guard! Ha! Ha!
Burn!
Tim slices through the stitches of the left arm of one of the kobolds, and it falls to the floor with a meaty thud.
All right. I've had enough of this.
Rosjen spins her quarterstaff over her head, slamming it into the one-armed kobold's face. Before it can even hit the floor, she turns to the remaining kobold and delivers a powerful kick.
I hope the rest of the cave isn't like this. I can only imagine what David is going through.
There's nothing of value on these bodies either.
It might do us some good if we take a moment to rest. We are no use to David if we cannot make it to him.
Yeah, good idea.
After a short rest, the party weighs the options ahead of them. The path before them splits, with the small stream continuing to the left, and a drier passageway sloping upwards to the right. Choosing the right-hand path, the group travels upwards until they find themselves in a cave, with walls arching far above into the darkness, and a thick, dark orange film covering the floor. The air is close and warm, filled with a near-overpowering odor of ammonia, and a constant rustling can be heard from the shadows above.
What kind of sick funhouse is this place anyway?
It certainly seems to be filled with its share of creepy crawlies so far.
Something light falls and plops on Tim's shoulder. He pulls himself backwards towards the hallway and looks with mild horror at what seems to be a pebble.
Ah! What is it?
Get back out of the room!
Laeran grabs Tim by the scruff of the collar, hauling him back into the passageway. Then, using his dagger, flicks the unknown substance onto the cavern floor. They both quickly realize that it's the same mysterious substance. Tim sniffs his shoulder and recoils.
Oh, gross. Smells like...
Quick! Remove your mantle! What if it's acid or something?
Tim freezes and cautiously waits for a few moments to see if the residue starts to burn or melt his cloak, but nothing happens. So he pulls out a piece of cloth and vigorously wipes his shoulder.
Nope, just So what's crapping so much it's covering the floor?
Peering up into the darkness, the party quickly realizes that the source of the rustling sound is bats. Hundreds of them cover the ceiling so completely it appears to breathe.
Oh, shh. It's daytime, so they're sleeping. Keep the noise down.
Tem flips up the hood of his cloak while Rosjen wraps a scarf around her face and steps forward. Silently taking a running start, she leaps, using her staff for balance, and slides across the greasy, guano-covered floor of the cave. She drifts into a curve and skids to a stop at the other side. Hastily, she does her best to scrape the guano from her sandals on a nearby rock. Satisfied, she looks back at her companions and takes a bow.
Well, that's gross. Still, effective.
Oh, gods above, do not let me fall on my eye.
With a shambling start, Laeran awkwardly slides across the cave floor. Tem follows suit, but as he approaches the others, he slips a little, and before he can catch himself, falls back against the wall. As he rights himself, a single string on the guitar slung along his back scrapes against a rock and rings out through the cavern. Tem, Rosjen, and Laeran freeze as the bats above stir, but luck is on their side, and just as quickly, they settle down. As the three continue forward, they notice the bats give way to similar but larger creatures. They have red instead of black on their leathery wings, and long, thin, needle-like beaks instead of mouths.
Sturges!
What are sturges?
Think of it as an unholy mix between a bat and a mosquito.
Ugh, gross. We should probably get the heck away from here then.
I agree. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Deciding that discretion is the better part of valor, the party proceeds as quietly as they can manage down the next tunnel. The passageway ends in a T-junction, and they take a right leading to the smaller, dome-like chamber with a stalactite-covered ceiling and piles of old, bleached bones scattered around the stone floor. Water drips from an unknown source, and the cave is cool and wet. Tem moves into the room and picks up one of the bones. It is covered in teeth marks. He grimaces and turns back to the others.
Well, it's been gnawed on by something. A lot. Impossible to tell what sort of creature it once was, though.
He eyes the bone for a moment, then casually tosses it to the ground, putting his hands on his hips.
Well, at least whatever ate it seems to be gone.
Before he can finish his sentence, a long, slimy tentacle wraps itself around Tem's leg, flipping and wrenching him upward. Within moments, another pair of tentacles grab and restrain him as they haul him higher and higher. Rosjen and Laeran look on, horrified, as an evil-looking eye opens on one of the stalactites, followed by a wide maw full of curved, yellow, razor-sharp teeth.
Great mouth of Galanter! What in the nine hells is this thing?
The roper begins to reel Tim in, pulling him ever closer to its mouth.
Roz, shoot it!
I'm on it, Tim. I'm sorry about the fall.
Fall? Wait, what?
He cries out in fear as Rosjen knocks an arrow into her shortbow, aims, and expertly fires it into one of the tentacles holding Tim, snapping it in half. The monster cries out in pain and drops him 25 feet to the floor. Rosjen, despite her diminutive form, easily catches him, teetering for a moment before Tim gets his footing beside her.
My hero.
Always the damsel, aren't you, Tim?
5 more tentacles appear to replace the damaged one as the creature slowly drags itself along the ceiling toward the party, crying out in anger.
Run! This is more than we can handle right now.
You don't have to tell me twice.
The 3 beat a hasty retreat back out of the cave and into the passageway, but before he leaves, Tim turns around and yells a taunt at the roper.
Yeah, you thought you could handle this? You don't want none of them!
Tim is forced to duck as one of the tentacles swings at his head. The roper hisses at the escaping party and blinks its huge, blood-red eye as its mouth extends outward like a goblin shark's. It strains its muscles and tentacles in vain to reach them. As the party moves away from its reach, it slows to a stop and lumbers back to its cave, fading away into the darkness behind them.
Hey, did you guys see that?
Did you have to tell it off? That is on you, lad.
The water continues down the path, following them into a stomach-shaped chamber. The room is full of crudely built boxes and crates. The water from the small stream cuts right through them and disappears around another bend. Rosjen checks the containers carefully for traps. Nothing seems out of the ordinary, and she gives the all clear.
These haven't been here long. They'd be ruined from water damage after a couple weeks if left like this.
Laeran walks forward and opens one of the crates.
Empty. Whatever supplies these once held are long gone.
That's a shame. I was hoping there might have been something we could have for lunch. What could they be storing?
Not the child. Let us move on. I hear water running up ahead.
The bend in the path turns into a slope and goes down before evening out. The stream follows it, emptying out into an underground lake. The light from Laeran's symbol illuminates as much as it can, reflecting off the water's surface like the moon.
I can see the opposite wall, but this cavern is huge. I can't see either end of it. There's a small island downstream on the other side.
All right. Keep your guard up.
The water from the lake is quiet and still. Laeran tests the water cautiously.
It's cold, but not unbearable. It only seems to be a few feet deep.
Sorry, but there's no way I'm getting in that water.
Rosjen stows her weapons and rubs her hands together, and with a running jump leaps deftly onto the rough wall of the cavern, finding handholds in the uneven surface. She begins to scale the wall toward the island.
I don't think I can do that.
Neither can I. Well, there's nothing for it then. Come on in, Tim.
The pair wade out into the water and find that even at its deepest, it only rises to their thighs. They trudge forward, while Rosjen carefully picks her way along the wall and ceiling. As they reach the island, they see a very large, ornate iron gate. Rosjen hops down off of the wall and onto the island with ease, and approaches the monolithic structure. The ironworking is intricate and close, but through it, the party can see stairs leading upwards into darkness.
I wonder where those lead to.
Perhaps David lies beyond.
I've got some experience with locks. Let me try this.
Rosjen opens her satchel and takes out a small leather wrapping that she lays down on the smooth cavern floor and rolls open to reveal a set of tools. She picks up a long, thin, hooked metal rod and begins to maneuver it in the lock. She continues for several minutes with a look of intense concentration, switching tools several times before sighing and dropping her hands to her sides in frustration.
I give up. That's one tough lock. It's like it keeps moving as I work to solve it.
Let me try. This isn't my first time around a lockpick either.
Be my guest.
Tim picks up one of Rosjen's tools and works with some finesse, deftly maneuvering his hands in the tool and the lock, but after a minute or two, his efforts, the odd grunt, and the sound of metal squeaking against metal, he also gives up.
Son of a swamp hag. This thing is impossible. It's like it keeps changing on me. What is it? Some kind of gnomish lock?
Tim throws down the tool he was using, and after standing up, stomps away in a huff. Rosjen carefully picks up the tools again and continues to fiddle with the lock. As Tim walks away from the door, he sees a glint of something pale in the water.
Hey, what's this?
Tim reaches down into the water and picks up a large, oddly shaped pale white bone, very different from the ones earlier in the Roper Cavern.
I don't know. It doesn't look humanoid, though.
Maybe we should bring it back to town with us. It's possible someone there could shed a little more light on it.
As for now, there is still more to this cavern that we have not discovered. If Kelemvor wanted us to continue our journey this way, this door would open to us.
Fine. But don't think this is over, door.
Our heroes retrace their steps, unable to bypass the wrought iron gate.
Do you think this used to be the Black Dragon's lair?
Maybe part of it. All of this would have been underwater, and those snakes do enjoy keeping their lairs wet. I do not know. I have a feeling that something else is going on in this dank pit. None of these exits have been large enough to fit a lizard of that size.
Hush, you two. We're about to pass by that cavern full of bats and sturges again.
The party moves as quietly as they can, but Laeran's armor continues to clang.
Mr. Pots and Pans over here.
You sound like you're carrying an entire kitchen on your back.
What would you have me do? Stay behind? What if one of you were to get hurt?
Everyone stops. The 3 adventurers and 3 kobolds stare at each other.
Ambush.
Rosjen rushes forward.
I don't want anyone harming my friends anymore, and I don't want anyone harming me. I've had it!
The blow glances off of the kobold.
Aw, high kick!
All right, you vile things, let us see what you are made of.
Laeran marches up to the kobold on Rosjen's right, and with a mighty swing takes its head clean off. The body continues to stand, sword in hand.
Apparently all you're made of is scales and bull.
The burn, it's too much.
The creature in front of Rosjen clasps its head in pain and falls to the floor dead. The remaining kobolds, both with a head and without, attack Rosjen. But their tactics outplay her as she is sliced by one of their blades. Rosjen holds her bleeding wound and swings her staff in front of her wildly. The 2 kobolds jump back out of the way.
Face me, you little fiend!
Laeran's mace meets kobold, the sound of bones snapping, but the creature still stands.
If you, vile things, followed Kelemvor's doctrine, you'd both be on your way to your little dragon afterlife.
The broken creatures swing with abandon, both times hitting their marks.
We're done here.
Rosjen holds her quarterstaff out and sweeps the broken kobold. With a forceful motion, she throws it into the headless one, and both collapse in a heap of parts.
Thanks for that. Good of you to do, Roz.
Your body count is rising.
While Laeran and Rosjen take a moment to tend to their wounds from battle, Tim looks down both pathways available to them. One to the left where the stream is coming from, another to the right with a long, curved tunnel. Where does the story continue? Please join us next time for another chapter.
Tales by Tabletop is a series supported by a dedicated team. They make this project happen and infinitely more fun. Laeran is played by Jim Cook and voiced by Jay DeGraff. Rosjen is played by Misty Harper and voiced by Jazlyn Pintar. Tim is voiced and played by Phil Boelche. Your narrator is David Nellor. Story coordinators are Mike Becker, Chris Hultin, and Zac McAuley. Sound effects provided by freesound.org and music provided by tabletopaudio.com. The theme for Tales by Tabletop was created by David Vass. This show is edited and directed by Zac McAuley, Travis Nellor, and is produced by Michael Blackard.